Hi everyone, welcome to the tutorial for the company keyboard event. Everyone now should have received an entire keyboard kit from us at Infinikey. And in today's video, we're going to be looking over all the parts, a general introduction of mechanical keyboards, as well as a step-by-step guide of how to put your keyboard together. Let's get into it. First off, we're going to look over what's included in the kit. There are three main parts you just want to make sure that you have at your disposal. The first is this long, thin box. This is your key set. You can hear them rattling around in there. We can put that to the side for a moment. We'll open it up and look at what it's inside. You'll see 2 packs of AKKO switches. Each pack holds 45 switches, and you'll need 2 to cover your keyboard. And lastly, you have the largest box in your bundle. This is the keyboard itself. Let's open this one up. You can remove the flap here on the long side. Push this open. Remove the foam here. You have a quick little user manual that'll go through lighting options, different functions, shortcuts, and so on. We'll look at that in a bit. Some extra pieces, like more foam for the keyboard itself, if you'd like to replace that on the inside. And then, of course, the keyboard itself. Go ahead and remove the wrapper. And there we have it. This is a customized ACR Pro 75 by AKKO, and if you look on the back side, you'll see why it's customized. With the team leads at Stadia, we've customized the badge on the back with the logo. Go ahead and peel off that layer of plastic to see that badge in full glory. Now, before we get into the board, just looking at the rest of the packet. In the box at the top, you'll hear a number of extra little things that will be useful to you during this process. You have one bag with a key switch puller and an Allen key and some extra screws as well for the keyboard. You won't need these for now, so you can put these aside. You have some 3M extendable feet if you'd like to stick those on the back of the keyboard. After you're finished, these will stick on to the bottom of the keyboard and help you raise it at an angle. So you have 2 of them for the back side. You have a coiled cable, USB-C, to connect your keyboard to your computer or device. And finally, you have the keycap puller along with an extra daughter board in case there's an issue with yours inside, extra gaskets, and some extra little parts for the inside, just in case one falls out, breaks, or degrades over time for whatever reason. But go ahead and put most of those accessories away to the side for now. The only ones we'll really want to have on hand for the next steps is this switch puller. As we put in the switches, this will help us remove any switches that might have an issue. So put that to the side. And the USB-C cable. You'll want to plug this into your keyboard right now before you begin, just to make sure that everything is registering with your keyboard. So go ahead and take your cable, unravel it, plug it into your laptop or your desktop or any USB port that has some power coming through it. Once you plug your USB cable in, if everything is connected properly inside, which it should, your keyboard should light up just like this. This is to make sure that the breakout daughter board is connected directly to the hot swap PCB properly with the internal JST cable, and that everything is registering into the keyboard. While we assemble the keyboard, you won't need it plugged in, so you can go ahead and remove it and put it to the side. Before we begin assembling the keyboard, we can review the specifics of this keyboard itself. This is, again, the ACR Pro 75 keyboard by AKKO. It is CNC milled polycarbonate. You can see it being a bit translucent and seeing the inside. It has, again, the custom badge. The PCB here, as we place the switches in, are hot swap, meaning there's no need for additional assembly like soldering or anything too specific. Everything you need to put together the keyboard is right here in the kit. The stabilizers here, you'll see in pink, are already installed. These help stabilize the longer keys. The plate is aluminum, a standard high quality plate for mechanical keyboards. And the form factor, you'll notice that it is different than, let's say, the keyboard you have on your desk or your laptop. This is what's called a 75%, which still maintains the arrow keys, has a column on the right, and the function row. A 60%, for example, would do away with the arrow keys and the function row, or up to a TKL would separate the arrows a bit further in its own cluster, or of course a full size, as we've all seen, will extend to a numpad. This, again, is a 75% form factor, which is popular amongst most people we do these activities with. It really combines the best of both worlds when it comes to functionality, being large enough to have the function keys, the arrow keys that we use all the time, but not too large that it takes up a great deal of room on your desk. It's both compact, light, and customizable, which we'll get into. The first step we'll be taking some time with is putting the mechanical switches into the keyboard. This is, of course, why keyboards of this type are called mechanical keyboards. Because on the inside, instead of a membrane sensor or other ways to actuate the switch, you have individual mechanical switches that register into the PCB. So every press is an individual mechanical actuation that goes from the keycap into the switch, into and registering into the PCB and into your device. These are mechanical keyboards. So go ahead and open these packets. You'll see that they're in these clamshells with 45 switches each. And the clamshell opens just like that. Each one is stationed quite neatly for you to grab and go. And so since this is a hot swap PCB, all we'll have to do is look at the switch, make sure the two metal pins on the back are straight, align those with these two smaller holes. You'll see in the hot swap socket, there's a bigger center one, medium-sized holes that go to the side, and slightly smaller ones on the north side of the socket. The metal pins will always be aligned with the north side of the socket. So looking at it closely in the video, the metal ones will be on the top side, not the side, not towards the bottom, but inserted directly like this. And you'll want to take each switch, make sure it is as top down as possible, not going at it from an angle, but straight down, and gently pushing it into the socket. And you'll want it to do that for every single hot swap socket here on the keyboard. Here's a closer look. Again, you have the metal pins towards the top, the big stem here to fit in the center there to align it, and you'll just want to make sure those metal pins are aligned with the top of the keyboard. You'll put it in, gently push down, and you'll hear a nice little crunch as it pops in to the keyboard. Go ahead and spend a few minutes putting all of these in, and Then we'll be looking at testing the keyboard. Once you've spent up all the 45 here, of course, open the second packet and use as many as you need to fill up the rest of the keyboard. After you place them all in, this is what your keyboard should look like. Every socket filled with one of the mechanical switches, with several left over, which is great because in the next step, we'll be testing the key presses of every switch to make sure that they are seated properly. Go ahead and plug your keyboard into your device. This time you'll want to make sure it's connected to a laptop or computer because we will be opening up a program that will allow us to test if each switch is working. Once you've identified if and how many switches are not registering in the keyboard, go ahead and take the switch puller. This is used to take out the switches from the keyboard, and you'll notice these two little notches on the switch. Go ahead and place those notches right on the top and bottom. They'll slide slightly under the plastic. You'll see here on the camera, and just do a little quick pull from there. This will allow you to take the switch out from the keyboard. If you look closely at the switches that are not registering, most likely the pins will be bent. Either they'll be bent kind of at an angle. You'll notice again that we place them as straight as we could when we put them in, or they will be squiggled up like an accordion. Either way, try to straighten them out so that we can place them back into the keyboard, or if it's too difficult to straighten out either with your hand or a tool, you can just put it to the side and grab one of the extra switches to put in there. Don't worry if you have to toss a switch or two. It's very common in the hot swap process, and we just want to make sure you are set up with fully functioning switches across the board. Just a quick note on switches before moving forward. Everyone on the Stadia team has received these lavender purple tactile switches from NKKO. Tactile meaning you can feel a tactile bump when the switch is actuated, so you can tell physically when a key has been pressed and registered into the keyboard. There are, of course, not only many different types of, let's say, tactile switches made from different materials. Some are harder to press, some are lighter, some are made out of different materials like palm. There may be currently hundreds of switches on the market that you can test out for yourself. And this being a hot swap board means that you can try out these switches for a while, and if you decide to switch to another, all you have to do is pull these switches out, pop new ones in, and you'll have an entirely new keyboard experience on your desk. Now, for the final step, we'll be putting the keyboard towards the top and opening our key set box. This is the custom die sub key set we've created specifically for the team at Stadia, and you'll see how we did that once you open up the box. There we go. So we have a very clean die sub key set here with a custom font, more akin to what Google is used to, and of course, the Stadia logos on the first tray. The first tray will cover most of your key set and keyboard, and if you take that off to go to the second tray, you'll have a smaller one that has some more novelties in it, an actual Google logo key, and other novelty keys to try out with your keyboard. The process here is very simple. You'll be taking each key and placing them on the corresponding spot of your keyboard. The escape key, the F1, and so forth. And that was straightforward enough. You now have a fully built mechanical keyboard. To going into the details of the keycaps for just a moment, we're looking at die sub PBT, PBT being the material these are cast out of, die sub being the way that we transfer a film or colors or designs onto the keycap and heat transfer them on, and are also MX style, MX being the type of stem that these switches stand on. These are fairly universal across mechanical keyboards. This cross shape, of course, aligning with the shape of the switch stem, or they'll pop just right on. Die sub, as opposed to something like double shot, allows us to transfer very complex or multicolored or new types of designs onto PBT keycaps. It gives us a lot of creative flexibility, and that's how we're able to achieve things like the complete Stadia logo with the gradient on the logo, as well as the custom fonts across the key set. You're not getting your typical standard keyboard design here. You want to make sure all of your keycaps are properly seated into the switches. Just give them all a little bit of a nudge into them. And again, you have your pick of many novelties you can use to replace across the F row of the keyboard, or anywhere on the keyboard for that matter. If you revisit the box that the keyboard came in, you can reach in and grab the keycap puller, which was this little tool here. And you can use this later to switch out the keycaps. All you'll need to do is take the puller, push it across the sides of the keycap, rotate it slightly so it nabs the corners of the keycap, and give it a nice pull. They'll pop right off. Even more so than switches, there are hundreds of varieties of keycaps out there on the market. There are different materials like a harder, denser ABS, other PBT designs such as this one, and new ones are coming out all the time. This keyboard should be compatible with almost every key set out there on the market. And if you decide to switch out this set of keycaps for another, it's as easy as removing all of the keycaps here and replacing them with your next purchase. Specific to these keycaps, we really love die sub PBT. PBT has less of a chance to get oily or slippery under your fingers. It will not shine over time with oil or wear down. The die sub process really gives us the ability to create really bespoke experiences for businesses across the world. Just as a quick preview of what you can expect with our work over at Infinikey, you can see examples of our die sublimation space bars here. The top being part of our core Cloud9 keycap set with their logo across the space bar. The second, a concept for the new branding of Bandai Namco. And finally, for the Google Madison office, a die sublimated image of their skyline in Madison, Wisconsin. And that's it. Congratulations on completing your first custom mechanical keyboard from scratch. Be sure to consult things like the manual that came in the box to, for example, change the lighting features. Here, the right control, which is the function button, plus L turns off the lighting, and there's lots of ways to customize the colors or the brightness and the different functions of the keyboard itself. Thanks for participating in this event with us. Once you've completed your board, please share a picture on socials and tag us in the links below. The world of mechanical keyboards is a rich one, and there are many choices in switches, form factors, keycap types, designers, collaborations, and so many more. And we hope that this provided an easy access point to enjoy for mechanical keyboards, and you can take it from there. And finally, thank you to the team leads over at Google. We are always excited to work with our clients and partners to create a really unique experience for their teams that is not just unforgettable, but aligns with their mission, their goals as a brand and company. Until next time, this is Michael. See you soon.
For the rest of the season. Well, it was the perfect day for Tottenham's number 10. Broke